Hey guys, Lytane here, and last week a remake came out for a game that I used to play a lot as a kid, Secret of Mana. And because it got a remake, I decided to have a look at the original to see if that is worth it. In 1993, Secret of Mana was released, but it is not the first game in the series. This is actually the second game, and I know I'm going to butcher the name of the series, but it's called Seiken Densetsu. The first game in the series is drastically different in tone, gameplay, and story, and really this is the game that really set up the Mana series. Now normally Japan gets some of these RPG games without the West knowing about them, such as Final Fantasy 2 or 3, but we did get the first game in the Mana series. Released on the original Game Boy, it changed name in the West to capitalize on that other popular franchise, so it became known as Final Fantasy Adventures. You know, the more you know. But let's get on with the story. In The Secret of Mana, you play as a boy without a name, at least in the English version anyway. There's no official name given to him, but they have adopted his Jap name, which is Randi. Just like any good RPG, Randi lives in a small town and dreams of adventure. He goes exploring and finds a mysterious cave behind a waterfall with a rusty sword in it. Taking the sword, monsters start attacking his village, and though he fends off the attack, he is banished. Without much direction, he decides to learn more about this mysterious sword. In doing so, he comes across a girl and a sprite, which is a being of magic, and they learn that this sword is the legendary Sword of Mana, and it needs to be powered up in order to stop the evil coming to their world. Seems easy enough, but there are plot twists and it gets more complex as it goes on, but all I want to know is what is the Secret of Mana? Secret of Mana was made by Square. Yeah, you've probably heard of them. They made other little RPGs like Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts and stuff, you know, just little things. Secret of Mana's where it's at. As the kings of RPG, this is actually a different type of RPG than most of the other ones that came out around this time of release. Let's start with the main characters. There are 3 of them, and that is all you get. That is your entire party for the entirety of the game. Usually most RPGs had 4 characters to begin with, and a whole cast of characters that you can get into your party as the game goes on, especially games that came out on the Super Nintendo and later. They just wanted to have more characters, more. But this one limits you to 3. Because you're only limited to 3, they get a lot more screen time and they get a lot more story and a lot more drive to them. Because you aren't switching in and out characters all the time, this story can be more focused on these 3 main characters and what you're going through as a team, which is a good way about telling a story. The 3 main characters have all of your bases covered as well. The boy is a good fighter. He's like stabby with a sword, so he's good at all that kind of stuff. Whilst the girl is a white mage, meaning that she can do a lot of the healing spells and a lot of the buffs and all that kind of stuff, so she's useful there. And the sprite is the black mage of the group, which does all of the offensive magic, you know, fire, thunder, water, all that kind of stuff. That's what his main job is. Traveling around the game is fairly easy enough. With its top-down angle perspective, you can see a lot of the screen and have ample room to move in. It is very similar to the likes of Legend of Zelda in that way. But Square tried to innovate the idea of an RPG, so no longer are there just random battles. This is an action RPG. So as you run around, you see the enemies that you can fight, and if you choose to do so, you can just go up and hit them. Battles happen in real time, so you can dodge and fight your way through the enemies. I like this style of RPG because it almost feels more skill-based, and I have to pay way more attention to what's going on screen. With an active time battle, I can usually just spam the button until I get the victory. It also means that with enough skill, I can dodge enemy attacks and could beat the game at a much lower level if I want that kind of challenge. But if the combat is a little bit too intense for you, you can always stop it with the ring system. This was another innovation that Square tried to put into this game. Whenever you activate the ring system, you get all of the menus, all of the options that you have available to that character. So you might be able to cast magic, or you want to do a special move. Then you would go into your ring system, the entire world would stop whilst you're picking this move, and then once you press it, the move activates fairly soon after you've pressed the button. Depending on what's happening on the screen, of course. This is a very unique way of doing things because it pauses the thing. You can actually sit back and think, do I want to use fire on this bad guy? Oh, do I need the healing, or which character should I heal first? You can get a general sense of what's going on, and it's a nice way of just pausing the action so you can figure out what your next best move is. But then when you go back into the action, it's all happening in real time again, so you could just die or do really well, depending on how you play. But aside from combat, you'll be exploring the world around you, and it does fall into some of the RPG tropes that are around this time, meaning a lot of the areas aren't too extravagant or unique. Like, you go to a foresty place, you go to a fiery place, you go to castles and all that kind of stuff. It's fairly stock standard, but each place has a different feel to it, and they all look and feel really fun and unique to each other and to other things that were out at this time. This is a nice looking game. The sprites for the characters are fairly big, and because of that they get a lot of detail added to them. There's also a lot of frames of animation, especially for those three main characters, and whilst the monsters and the bosses don't have nearly as many frames, it's still a fantastic amount of work put into them. Plus, the world that you're exploring has so much depth to it. Each area looks great and feels so much better. There's so much color and so much pop to every one of these screens and every one of these areas. It's just phenomenal. Whilst everything looks nice, the game won't be nice to you. I found this game to be pretty hard, especially towards the end of the game. Because the combat is in real time and you have to manage 3 people, it can get a little confusing as to what is going on, and some of the harder battles, including the bosses, really put you to the test. Because of this, I could never beat this game as a kid, but going back to this game, I did find parts difficult and some bosses just, well, unfair, but it was a lot easier than I remembered, and I think that has to do with skill. Also, something unique for this game is that it is a 3-player game, so you and 2 friends could control each one of the main characters, which is a really neat idea. But as many of you know, the Super Nintendo only supports 2 controllers, so you need to buy a multi-tap in order to use this feature, and I can't think of any other game that has a 3-player variant, so this might hold that honor. Secret of Mana is, in my opinion, worth it. It is still as much fun to play today as it was when it first came out. The sprites are big and they have so much animation, the combat is fairly deep, and it doesn't feel too repetitive because you're not just mashing a button and hoping that these random encounters go away. You can just run past these bad guys if you're so inclined, and because of that, the game doesn't get that bogged down feeling that a lot of RPGs did. Whilst yes, the areas aren't too complex and too crazy from what used to be coming out around this time, the story, as well as a typical JRPG where it starts off a simple thing in a small town and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as it goes on. But I do like that the ending of this game isn't just a clear-cut, happy, good triumph over evil kind of thing. There's a little bit of sadness and a little bit of realisticness to it that you don't see all too often in very many video games, especially ones that were coming out at this time. One thing I didn't really talk about was the soundtrack, and it sounds beautiful, which I think is just, par for the course if you have a Square Enix game. They always have like some great tunes in their games, which is just good work, Square Enix, and I fully understand why this game got a remaster. In fact, I'm fairly eager to play it. I haven't got it just yet, but I'm going to get it soon, and I'm going to relive all those memories and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to have a great time and see what's changed and see what's kept the same. It's just going to be a blast. So tell me what you thought about Secret of Mana. Did you play it as a kid, or did you play it when you were older? Did you ever play it with 3 people? I don't know anybody that ever did. I only heard about the 3-player variant later on in life, so I didn't even try it when I was a kid. I didn't even know there was 2-player, honestly, but my sister would never have played that game anyway. She's not into that kind of stuff. Anyways, tell me your experiences and tell me what you think about the remaster as well, because like I said, I haven't played it yet, so I'm quite eager to see how that one holds up compared to the original. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!